Oh, what is going on, everyone? That was probably really loud because the mic's here. I'll dull it down in the editing. Welcome back to another Sunday chat. Normally I do this Sunday mornings and just upload it, you know, with minimal editing. Still stay away from the editing. Just kind of have a conversation, tell some stories. That's what this is. Finding America is story time. I like to tell stories, and from what I'm gathering by the stats, you guys like it too. Not getting as many views, but I'm getting a lot more subscribers, which is weird. They usually go hand in hand. Oh well, if you are watching this, don't forget to hit that like button. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. But yeah, it's another Sunday morning, and here we are. Got two stories for you today. One is kind of interesting because it's funny, and context is everything. The other one is kind of sad, but it ends up kind of good. It's about a girl I went to, or I worked at Netflix with. She had a rough life, but it came out okay. So first of all, health's doing pretty good. I am, I'm on the mend. Still a little that fog brain I was talking about. That's still there. It's slowly going away. I still can't do math. That's really weird. Yeah. But we're getting there. So in case you haven't noticed, we're doing this upstairs in my office. Again, we've decided I decided not to do it outside in the back for a couple days. It's really cold and it's been getting loud. And we kept hearing that beeping sound. I think I figured out what it is. We have one of those mole things in our backyard. It vibrates and hums in the ground. And I guess it's got a little beeping noise that only moles can hear. So if you were hearing that in last week's video, congratulations, you're a mole, I guess. I don't know. I couldn't hear it. But people said there was a beeping. So moved it upstairs till, the moles are gone and it gets a little warmer. Maybe I'll just get a heater down there. Who knows? It's all up in the air right now. But yeah, so that's that. Someone's walking by my door. So we're going to do this up here for a couple weeks maybe, and then maybe move back outside or something. And then eventually we're moving down to the bomb shelter. Do you know I have a bomb shelter? I have a bomb shelter in my house, and I'm moving my studio down to the bomb shelter. So that should be exciting. I just got to get it fixed up a little bit. Don't want to get trapped down there in the damp and the cold. I need to make sure it's a little warmer. All right. Let's get to the first story of Finding America. The first story is about an exchange student that I knew in high school. And something weird happened there. She was a great girl from Brazil. Her name was Vanessa. And she was beautiful. She's a beautiful girl, sweet, completely the nicest thing you ever want to meet. She was an exchange student with my girlfriend Sandy's. He was one of her friends was, Sandy's friend Lori had this exchange student. So it was interesting. And we went places with them and went to the movies and a couple things like that. And the girl was very nice. One time at school, she was talking about how she went to the beach in Redondo Beach, where we are, Girls wore bathing suits back in the day. And she's in broken English trying to say that the bathing suits have too much material. She's all, in the broken language, she's all, in Brazil, we like to be more naked at the beach. Me and my friends are all, we're okay with that. She was just trying to say they wear little skimpier bathing suits, bikinis, I guess you could say. But anyway, nice girl. Goes to the movies with us one weekend. And I guess she sees me and Sandy, my girlfriend. I don't know if we were kissing or something like that at school, or we were being kind of, cuddly or what. I don't know. I don't know what we were doing. But this girl saw it and she was disgusted. At first she thought it was a little weird. And she asked Lori. She's all, what is Jimmy's sister's name? And Lori said, Sandy, because my sister's name is Sandy. Lori thought, well, that's a weird question. She never met his sister Sandy. Didn't bother go, well, his girlfriend's name's Sandy too. She just said his sister's name's Sandy. So this poor Brazilian girl sees me and my girlfriend, who she thinks is my sister, kissing at school. She did not want anything to do with us. Lori's, we should go here with them. And she said, no, I don't ever want to be around them again. They're disgusting. And she never found out why we were disgusting until her time was up in the United States. And as she was packing up, she was talking to Lori. And she said, you shouldn't hang out with them. They're bad people. And Lori's, we've known Lori since we were kids. Lori's all, what's wrong with them? She's all, I saw them kissing, and Lori's all, and she was like, you're okay with this? She was like disgusted with Lori now. She goes, what's wrong with them kissing? She's like, that's his sister. She's like, it's not his sister, that's his girlfriend. She's like, you said his sister's name was Sandy. And she's like, yeah, his sister's name is Sandy. So the poor girl called me and Sandy separately, because we didn't live together or anything like that, and apologized to us that she was mistaken and she just thought horrible things. That's how nice she was. She, she could have just forgot about it. She's going back to Brazil. Just forget the whole thing. It's embarrassing. I made a horrible mistake, and just, go away. But, junior in high school or whatever she was at the time, she went out of her way to give us a call and apologize for something we didn't even know. Sandy had said she'd wouldn't look at her when she saw her in the hallways, and Sandy thought it was weird, but she's Brazilian. She didn't know what her problem was. maybe it's a cultural thing. You don't talk at school. Who knows? But yeah, I always thought that was great. But this girl went out of her way, called us, apologized. It was really nice. I thought it was nice. So yeah, I meant to reach out to Lori on Facebook and ask her if she'd ever talked to that girl again after that time. I don't know what happened to her, but yeah, probably went back to Brazil, had a wonderful life. I get the feeling she came from a very rich family. Could be wrong. Last week it was so cold I kept drinking my tea and it became obnoxious. So the next story, let me tell you about Finding America. If this first time you're here, I go out and I travel a lot. I take train trips, I go on cruises, I sometimes go to small towns and just walk around, film, and talk to people there. It's what I do. It's what I've always done, long before I ever thought about doing a YouTube channel. So this also includes workplaces. And when I was working at Netflix, probably around 2010 to 2014, I'd met a girl named Heather there. And she was not a single mom. She was just a young mom, I guess you could say. She was probably 26, maybe, something like that. She had 3 kids. Nice girl, wonderful girl. One night it was slow. I think sometimes when our phones would go down, which happened occasionally, we would just have to sit there and wait for them to come up, and I'd take escalations from angry people. She was a rep. I would take the escalation type thing. So anyway, one of those nights we were just sitting around talking, and she started telling me her story, how she had grown up in Utah and then eventually with her high school boyfriend moved to Las Vegas when she was 19 or something years old. She already had a kid. I think she had one on the way also. And so they come to Vegas, and I guess he was working construction and all that. And he wasn't a nice guy. Come to find out, he wasn't a nice guy. She said it was a high school thing, and she didn't know any better. And he was straight up abusive to her. But she's living in Las Vegas. Her family, I guess, wasn't talking to her because she got pregnant or something like that. So she lived in Las Vegas with her boyfriend. And I guess they'd gotten married there. And they had these 2 kids, or 1 kid and 1 on the way. And she got a job at a law office. So she'd worked there about 2 or 3 years, I believe. And she got to know the owners, the 2 lawyers or 3 lawyers that were there. And they became very friendly and, knew her kid and all that stuff. So I guess one day she had come into work for the last time. The lawyers couldn't take it anymore, with sunglasses on because she had black eyes. Yeah. So this had been an ongoing thing for a couple of years. I don't know what his problem was. She just never really got into that, but he decided it was a good idea to slap her around sometimes. And no place else to go, she stayed there. Now, it's easy when you hear a situation like that, you're just leave. Well, you got a kid and you're young and you don't think totally straight. You always think it's going to get better. It's always that you always hear. These girls always, it's going to get better. And he promises he's never going to do it again. And it never works out that way. I mean, I would be happy to hear a story where that did happen once. I mean, I don't want to hear that it happened once, but that he never did it again. It always seems like it becomes a pattern. And that's, stereotypical what happens. And that stereotype just didn't fall out of the sky. It's happened a lot that way. So she comes into work for I don't know how many times it had been, and they'd seen enough. So she's working at her desk, and lawyers bring her into a room for a meeting. She thinks it's typical HR type thing, and they are all, we know what's going on. You can take off your sunglasses. And so she takes off her sunglasses, and, she's trying to say it's her eyes are, bloodshot, or it's the season or something like that. She tried to give them all that story. So they're all, we know you're being abused. what can we do to help? She's all, there's nothing, you know. She tried to say, oh, there's nothing. We'll work it all out. Don't worry about it. And they're all, no. Do you have someplace else you can go? And she's all, I have a cousin I could go to in Oregon, but I can't get up to Oregon. I got the kid. I'm pregnant. My car won't make it. I don't have the money. She starts giving all the reasons. They're all, okay, okay, okay. And they're all, well, we're going to have someone come in here real quick. And I guess the boyfriend was, or the husband at this point, was working, and she knew he was working. They'd hired 3 guys to go clear out her stuff out of their apartment without her knowing. They're here to go to your apartment and clear out your stuff. And they have someone with them, an off-duty police officer, that's going to go too. And if you give them the okay, they're going to go get your stuff, and we're going to get you wherever you need to go. And she was like flabbergasted. She's like, what? You know, she couldn't believe. This is her employer. These weren't family members or anything like that. They were just helping her. And in this day and age, and this happened probably 15 years ago for her, 20 years ago, it just seems like you don't hear things like that often. And they were just going to help her. They're going to move her stuff out. So they moved the stuff out, put it in shipping or whatever they had to do, put it in storage, and went down and got her a nice used car that would make it to Oregon. And they bought it for her. They're all, we don't want any money back. We don't want any payments. You just take this car. And she's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can. And she said she was trying to argue with them that she can't. She doesn't have the money and all this. And she wasn't trying to get any money out of them. Well, we're giving you money. And we're calling it a severance thing. We don't want you to work for us anymore. We want you to go someplace else and get out of here. And they're all, we just don't want you to make contact with him until you have a lawyer, which we are offering our service. And she was like, she said she was stunned. She sat there with her mouth agape, you know, that couldn't believe that this was happening to her. And she said it was very confusing. It was very scary. But after a few minutes, she finally realized that this is the best opportunity I've ever had. So she called her cousin in Oregon. That's how she got up to end up working for Netflix, and loaded up her child in the car that they just bought for her. They gave her $12,000. I'll remember that this day. They gave her $12,000, which basically she had $1,200 coming for her check that month. They just added a zero to it and gave her the money. They never asked for anything. They never asked for money for her divorce, which they took care of. I don't know if she ever had to go down to Vegas for the divorce court thing. I'm sure she did. But she never told me what lawyers it is. I mean, I don't know if they want that out. You know, their other employees want to get helped out if there's a problem or something like that once they find out they're dishing out cash. And this is 20 years ago. These guys might be retired by now too. So Heather gets all this money and she just takes off. And this is back before cell phones. So she doesn't know what to do. And so she just gets the old school map, paper map, and draws out how to get to Oregon. And she started driving. She said she got to Reno and thought about just staying in Reno. She can get an apartment with, you know, $10,000. And then she decided that she should probably just get out of Nevada entirely. So she stayed a night or two in Reno. There she talked to the lady that owned a little motel she stayed at. And it was really sweet. She told the lady what was going on because she couldn't believe these guys helped her. And it was just amazing. That woman's husband parked his car in front of her motel room all night and made sure, like, the boyfriend didn't actually find out where she was, or the husband didn't actually find out where she was. He sat there, she said, all night and watched their front door of that motel room while they got some sleep. And in the morning, they took off again. And she said it was kindness after kindness after kindness. And she's not a religious person. She said, so I'm not a religious person, but, you know, there's some times in your life you're thinking, maybe I should be. Maybe something's going on here. It was such good. So that story, she's telling it to us. Excuse me. And, you know, she starts telling it to me. We're just talking. And then one other person sits down and starts listening. And then another person sits down and starts listening. Then there's like 4 of us sitting there. And the phones, I guess, came back on. And everyone was mad because they had gotten to the motel part. And then they had to go back to work. I could kind of do whatever I want at the time. Not everything I want, but, you know, I had a little more leeway than most of the normal workers. So I sat there and listened to her, talked to her for a while, and it was really interesting. And so she gets a job at the Veterans Hospital eventually. And she's working they had a legal department there or something like that. I don't know, because that's what she was, a legal clerk or a legal secretary. So they gave her a job, and she was working the Veterans Administration somewhere outside of Portland. And one day she met a guy that was delivering packages for the office. So he was in the mail room of this big building. And she started talking to him and kept talking to him. And then she found out he was telling everyone they'd had sex. They'd never had a date. And she was furious that he had said this, right? And that he was, gonna have, or they'd been having sex or something like that. She's furious. She's waiting for him to come in there. And so he comes in and she's like, you. She was so mad. She's like, stop telling people we've had sex. He's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Come to find out, the person told her that it was another guy that delivers packages, and he was talking about someone in another office that he actually was having sex with and dating. But she's all, I got this whole story all wrong, that this guy's telling everyone that I'm, sleeping with him, and so I'm totally angry, and I just start yelling at him. People in the office are looking. She goes out of nowhere, he blurts, I'm a virgin. She's all, I fell in love right there. It's like, oh, you're a dirty old lady at this point, right? So yeah, by the time she meets him, she was like 27, I think she said, and he was 22. And they start dating. And he eventually went into the military. He was getting his college to become an officer. Only lasted 4 years, blew out his knee, and really can't run. I've seen him a couple times, and he's got a little bit of a limp. He must have done something really bad to it. But that was when he was like 25 or something like that happened. And I saw him probably when he was close to 40, and he was still limping around. So yeah, that's his lot in life at this point. But yeah, so that was one of those stories that she tells me, that what she was going through with his husband. And I'm not going to share that with you. That's, I don't think she wants that out there. It's kind of graphic, or it's just kind of horrible. You just can't believe sometimes human beings are that bad to people they supposedly care about, people they supposedly love. And that's not, they're intentionally doing it. They're just screwed up in the head, and they think it's okay that they do that. So I guess in a way they are intentionally doing it. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so one last story. I watch Dark Docs all the time, which is another YouTube channel where they go over things of history, normally about war and things of that nature. Now, I knew this story long before I saw it on Dark Docs. It just reminded me. So when I was in the Army, I was in a unit called the 7th Infantry Division. They were known as the Bayonet Division because more than once they had run out of bullets in World War I and charged with bayonets. So they become known as the Bayonet Division. And that was in World War I, and they went on well after that. After World War I, they had disbanded them and then brought them back for World War II and then the Korean War. And then I think right after Vietnam, they disbanded them again. When I came in, it was like the third or fourth iteration of the 7th Infantry Division, and now we were 7th Infantry Light, which, it's like, if you know what an Army Ranger is, it's very similar to that, but not as cool. It was all about sneaking around. That's all we were all about. Sneaky. We own the night. That was our thing. I forget the little logo. Stealth is our tool. Surprise is our weapon. Yeah, so they had some little slogan like that. Anyway, so this guy, well, when I was in the 7th Division, every theater, every range was named Hansen. So there was Hansen Theater, M60 range or Hansen range or something like that. There was all these different things were Hansen. And then years later, I looked up who's Hansen for the 7th Infantry Division. I still can't speak. I think it's the stroke. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. So I did some research on this man. He's from Mississippi, southern Mississippi area. not too far from the Gulf Coast, little rural nothing town. Name's Jack G Hansen. And he was from Mississippi, typical country boy, and didn't have a job during the Korean War. So he went to a recruiter, which happened to be in Texas. Funny thing about this, Texas claims him as a Medal of Honor winner, which he is. But he's not from Texas. That's just where the recruitment depot was that he went to. That was the closest one back in the day. So they say he's a Texas Medal of Honor winner. He is not. He's a Mississippi Medal of Honor winner. Anyway, so Jack G. Hansen, I read all these stories about him and all these things about him. And he wasn't a very tall guy. It was about 5'7", and he was on a machine gun crew. And there were several machine guns. I'm getting ahead of myself. So he was on a machine gun crew with the 7th Infantry Division during the Korean War. Now, not much is known about his time there until he wins the Medal of Honor, until the actions he did to get the Medal of Honor, I should say. So they're on a hillside, they're in a saddle. So if you ever see two hills, like a camel thing, the little area, little valley between two hills is called a saddle. Military term. I don't think, sure other people use it too, but that's what we call it in the military. So he's with another machine gun crew. So there's probably like 6 people here on 2 machine guns, and they're covering an advance of the Chinese. And the Chinese did this thing where they just flooded an area with people, just 10 times as many people as you have, and they rush and they run, and half of them don't even have guns. They run behind a person, that person gets killed, they pick up the gun. That's kind of their thing. The Russians were big on doing this in World War II, and I think World War I also. So, I mean, that's horrible. One, they can't produce enough weapons for everyone, so they make them follow each other till one dies. That's one good thing about that. The only thing I can think is that means when everyone dies, there's less weapons for the other people to confiscate. So maybe that makes sense. I don't know. So they're during this battle, these Chinese are rushing up this valley, up to the saddle, and there's just thousands of them. There's other soldiers on each side shooting with their rifles, but these 2 machine gun crews are blasting away, and they're firing. It was apparently a couple hours, and they just kept going. Well, one by one, between the 2 machine gun crews, everyone had been wounded. Some could walk, some couldn't. So Jack G. Hansen tells everyone, I'm going to cover your retreat, get them back, right? And he stayed there with the machine gun by himself. And the guys that had been evacuated, they got up to the top of this hill, they got to safety and behind another line of soldiers, and they could still hear his machine gun going for quite some time after everyone had left. So everyone's off the hill, off the saddle, everyone's pulled back except for this one machine gun, and he's just firing away. And then they heard that, it's all nighttime. It's like 3 a.m. Nobody could see anything. They could just see muzzle blasts, I'm sure, and that was it, and here. But the machine gun dies down, and everyone thinks, okay, they killed him. And they're all thinking about that. And then they start hearing gunshots. Boom, 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 boom. There's no one down there to be shooting at. So they think the Chinese are maybe shooting at each other. They're all confused. No, it was Jack Hansen. He jumped out of the machine gun with a machete and a pistol and went to work. And boy, did this guy go to work. All around his position, the next day they came down and they recovered him. They found that all the bullets had been gone from the machine gun that he had. They found him outside of his foxhole with a machete in one hand, pistol in the other. All the bullets are gone, and there's 20 or 25 people laying around the outside of his machine gun pit, some with machete hack marks and stuff like that. This man was possessed. So sadly, Jack G. Hansen did not survive. And that action that he did earns him the Medal of Honor, and that's why the 7th Infantry Division always honored Jack Hansen. Everything was always named after him. I don't know if they are anymore. They shut down the 7th Infantry Division around 1991 or 92, something like that. And they just brought it back again like 2 years ago in Washington. So who knows if anything's called Hansen these days. But I always thought that was just an amazing story. when my son graduated from basic training and airborne school, me and my brother, who's a colonel in the Army, we flew out to Fort Benning, Georgia, which is now, they gave it another name, I don't know. It's one of the only names I agree with. They named one like Fort Liberty, which is Bragg, I think. I don't like that name. God, I can't think of his name. But there was a movie with Mel Gibson called We Were Soldiers. The colonel in that movie, it was a real man during this Vietnamese battle. He eventually becomes a general, I believe. And they named that base after him, and his name escapes me right now. But anyway, so we go out there for my son's graduation, and they have the infantry museum there, and they have this whole thing about Medal of Honor winners. We went there, read the citation for Jack G. Hansen again, and showed my son, my brother, and it's amazing. There's some truly astonishing stories there. But yeah, I have this life mission. I know where he's buried, which is right near the Gulf Coast in Mississippi, and it's a little neighborhood cemetery. I don't think there's 100 people in this cemetery, and it's, you know, you can tell that they mow it, but I've seen pictures, and no one's taken care of his grave in years. You know, this guy died in like 50-something, and I'm sure he didn't have any kids or anything like that. Probably had some nephews that might still be alive to this day. But pretty much anyone that ever knew Jack G. Hansen personally, probably gone by now, or there's very few left. I could be wrong. I don't know. But 1950, so if you were born, if you were, let's say to know him, to actually know him, you'd have to have been about 13 in 1950, so you'd be 80, almost 80 right now. So yeah, you'd be up there. Remember I was telling you the stroke? I can't do math. Totally confused right now of how old you'd be. All right, so that's the story. That's life after a stroke. You get a little confused when you start doing numbers. At least that's my lot in life right now. Hopefully that's going to go away with this whole brain fog once that happens. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. People ask me all the time what I film this on, and I think I said a couple weeks ago, I film everything on a DJI Pocket 3. I'll leave a link for that down below. I'll put a picture of one right here. Really cool little camera. Get it on Amazon. If you have kids, if you have grandkids and you want to follow them around, or you like to go on cruises or any kind of travel and film that, perfect camera for this. All right, everyone. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.